2006 was just not a good year for the Fox network. They tried 7 different shows, and they all ended up failing in one way or another. With the exception of one of them, they all just vanished after one season, going into the void we all know as lost media. Barely anything can be found to even prove that they existed. Until one day, I came across a couple of screener DVDs. On them were the pilots to these 7 failures. The Wedding Album, Till Death, Happy Hour, Standoff, Vanished, The Winner, Justice. It's time to bring them back, folks. One by one, in no particular order, they're coming out of the void and getting a thorough examination. Strap in. This is gonna be a fun one. Honestly, what is there to say about the Wedding Album? Well, I'll tell you one thing. Out of all the Fox pilots from 2006 that we've covered thus far, this one got treated the absolute worst. And I'm not saying that because I liked the pilot. No, I didn't, at all. It was 5 out of 10 at best. Mediocre, thumb to the side. Glad I watched it once, but wouldn't see it again. What is the Wedding Album? Well, it's a single episode series, also known as a dropped pilot, though I don't like to call this one by that term for reasons we'll get into very soon. And it's about a wedding photographer that leads a happy bachelor, single, somewhat lecherous lifestyle. His conservative family doesn't take too kindly to that and keeps trying to get him to settle down. Eventually, he gets a British assistant and falls in love with her, and there's a bunch of will they, won't they drama going on. Will he set aside his swingin' bachelor lifestyle to get with this girl? And will she finally get off her high horse to give him a chance? How do you think this goes? This is one of the most cliched stories I've ever seen. If this was some kind of show that was secretly pitched to Hallmark Channel or Lifetime, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. It feels exactly like one of their original movies. Guy meets girl, guy loses girl, guy gets girl back, wacky shenanigans, and half-hearted attempts at comedy that are trying to be nicey nice thrown in between at random times. That's all that the Wedding Album is. When I was watching the pilot, I kept looking at the clock thinking, when is this over? It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good enough for me to watch it or keep my attention. Why should I watch this when I definitely know how the story goes, even though the story never got the chance to be finished? And that's where we get to the interesting part. Perhaps the only interesting part about the Wedding Album. I didn't like this pilot. That's no secret. But I do admit that the network horribly screwed this one over. What happened to the show? Let me tell you exactly what happened. You know what a mid-season pickup is? That's basically when a new fall release show doesn't pan out so well. So, they gotta find something to replace it, and fast. And these tend to not be so good. For example, Baby Blues, you remember that show? That was a mid-season pickup. Because networks want to get something on the air and fast in order to fill up that time slot, they tend to not be all too picky with what they choose. And they chose the Wedding Album. They wanted to make a full, kinda soap opera, kinda dramedy, sorta whatever mess this was, and make it a big thing. Things were going fairly smoothly on the production scale, but all of a sudden, it stopped. Why? Because Fox decided to get cold feet at no moment's notice and replace the show with another wedding-themed series, The Wedding Bells, which, as a quick side note, when I was doing research for this show, I thought it was this. That's how confused I got. Still though, Fox pulls this wedding-based series for another wedding-based series that didn't last very long, leaving this one, with all those promises that were made, left completely unfulfilled. It's one thing to pass on a pilot that wasn't very good. Like the Groovinians on Cartoon Network. That thing sucked, was only aired once or twice, and then was thrown away with no chance of being picked up as a series. But what stinks about this is that the Wedding Album was already promised all of these things by the network, and then they decided one day, nope, we don't want to do that, let's replace it with a similar show instead. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the Disney Channel show, Phil of the Future. For those who don't know what happened to this one, Disney was thinking, wow, this is doing really well for our network, let's cancel it and replace it with something that's very similar in tone. And that's how we got the Wizards of Waverly Place. Not kidding, that's actually what happened. Look it up. But just because this scummy practice isn't exclusive to the Fox network doesn't mean that they're let off the hook. Oh no. Oh no 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 no. Why am I so mad at this even though I didn't like what I saw? Well, to that I ask you another question. Think of any show you like. When has the pilot ever been the best episode? You can't think of any, can you? That's because the pilot is the testing ground. They throw things at the wall, sees what sticks, take the parts that don't work off and replace them with new things, smoothing out all the rough edges and fixing the cracks. Even shows that have good pilots like Gravity Falls, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Standard Misadventures, Dave the Barbarian, those are not their best episodes. They serve a purpose, and that purpose is to introduce everybody to what they're gonna see later on down the road, providing they actually end up getting there. I'll show you a few examples. The Simpsons is one of the most influential shows of all time. I don't think you needed me to tell you that, but for the sake of this review, I had to mention it. It didn't start off so great though. Its first season was extremely rough around the edges, and honestly kind of dull. While it's not unwatchable or really all that bad, it's nothing compared to what we would get later on. The show was originally going to be centered around Bart, but then later on, if anything, they made Homer the main character, and the show changed along with it. Instead of becoming a slice-of-life kind of show that had the typical family sitcom dynamic, albeit a little more dysfunctional, they made it exactly what it is now. The loud, colorful, often humorous show that should really stop by now. But if you want to talk about live-action shows, take a look at Friends or The Office. Everyone agrees that its first few episodes were kinda slow, nothing compared to what we would get later on. But wouldn't you know it, they kicked themselves into high gear and got really good, achieving worldwide popularity. This never would have happened if the network cut them down in their prime after 1 or 2 episodes saying, oh well, these weren't all that great, time to find something new. This is something that Nickelodeon gets attacked for over and over and over again, and it's something I'll be talking about very soon. But this is what happened to the Wedding Album. The pilot was really mediocre. However, they could have seen the mediocrities and then worked on them, improved them, made some stronger characters, make some compelling situations. Don't follow the crowd, do your own thing. That's what all the successful shows do. Now, I'm not really sure if the Wedding Album would have been this great, groundbreaking drama show, but you never know. It could have been. It could have taken this cliched premise with cliched characters and ran with it. Could have been something special. The problem is, we'll never know because they never got to do anything. However, I do have a theory. Because the Wedding Album was killed in the middle of its first season production, I think there might be some scripts roaming around somewhere. If anyone knows where to find some, let me know, because I'd be interested in taking a look. I would love to see if the show would have improved, or if it would have remained stale. But maybe that's why Fox pulled the plug on it. Maybe they saw that it remained stale. Well, I kind of want to go against that because the show they replaced it with was equally as stale. In fact, according to critic reviews, it had the same exact issues as this one did. Boring characters, cliched premises, all the stuff I've complained about before. So that argument's invalid because they didn't replace it with a similar show, they replaced it with the exact same show. And it's not made by the same people, it doesn't have the same stars, doesn't have the same characters, so it's not a spiritual successor in any way. Fox cast the show aside before it could become anything, replacing it with basically a clone, and then got the same results. With The Wedding Bells, we see exactly what the show would have been if it decided to stay boring had it been picked up. Fox is notoriously trigger happy with the cancellation button already. All 3 of the shows that we've covered from the 2006 season haven't lasted at all. Happy Hour, The Winner, and now this one. Although this one, unlike the other 2, didn't get a chance to be anything. The Winner was clearly starting off a little rough, but got better over time. Happy Hour did not get better over time and decided to stay mediocre. So who knows what would have happened with this one? You can tell that the people behind the scenes cared about this, or at least seemed to. That or they're just really good actors. And they never got to follow up on any of this because Fox got impatient and decided to cancel it for, honestly, very confusing reasons, if there are reasons at all. All we can do now is sit back and think what might have been if the wedding album wasn't screwed over. Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. Have you guys seen the pilot? If you haven't, I posted it here on my channel. I'll link it in the description. So, comment below and let me know, because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time!